I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Lance Velchek here for Arrow in the Head's The Fucking Black Sheep, where we take a look at the opposing opinion of the genre's most divisive films. Robert Rodriguez returns with his first theatrical film in 5 years. Sin City 2 was 2014. Man, time is a funny thing. Oh, and this doesn't count, since we'll all be dead before it's released. And though one can argue he is hit or miss when it comes to his project choices, I'll always love his eclectic filmography and against-the-grain attitude. And so, in 2019, we are finally getting a live-action adaptation of the famous manga series Battle Angel Alita. James Cameron was set to direct this a ways back, but when things couldn't get off the ground, he went on to the never-ending world of Pandora. Seriously. Time moved on, and Robert Rodriguez ended up taking over as the director. But James Cameron did end up getting a writing credit for Alita, and that leads me to this month's Black Sheep entry. I'd like to re-examine a James Cameron classic, a sequel to a well-known, gritty, low-budget film. One of the earlier works of a living legend. You know it. Piranha 2. The story of Piranha 2 may be a bit more interesting than the movie itself. Since Roger Corman only had a one-picture deal, a sequel would have to come from someone else, needing to replace Joe Dante with a new director. Producer Ovidio Osenitis. Ovidio Osenitis? Listen, I'm not even sure how to say this. Let's call him Octavius. But producer Octavius took a chance on a first-time filmmaker by the name of James Cameron. All hope was on this sequel being a sure success. Cameron worked hard, put together a team, mapped things out, and he's fired. Shit. Octavius, thinking that he could do a better job, wear multiple hats, and do a bit of mixing,
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
ended up firing James Cameron on the basis of budgetary concerns.
You are shit. Hit the bricks, pal, and beat it, cause you are going out.
Taking a page out of the canon handbook, Octo did what all Italian exploitation films did in the 70s and 80s. Do it quick and do it cheap. He felt James was too much of a perfectionist for a film this caliber. And so we got the schlock fest, beautifully titled Piranha 2 The Spawning. Piranha 2 Flying Killers. Same thing, believe me. Set on an island at a swanky beach resort, the story follows Anne, a diving instructor for the sex-crazed hotel Elysium, and her police chief ex-husband, played by the legend of the screen and brilliantly named Lance fucking Henriksen. A sunken ship houses the murderous fish, as we learn that not only are they deadly in the water, but now have the ability to fly and kill on land. You see, these piranhas are genetically modified for flight and bred to be the ultimate weapon.
We spliced in genes from different species to create the ultimate killer organism.
Right there, this is why I love this sequel. It took the batshit crazy approach from the first and just doubled down. All in on a bad bet. The weirdest and probably the most interesting choice is how this hotel and its guests are portrayed. Since these films are clear Jaws ripoffs, you can and should make comparisons of this resort to Amity Island, where those residents were innocent townsfolk at the mercy of a selfish mayor. Elysium is full of horny tourists trying to anything that moves, while also at the mercy of a selfish manager. It's such a bizarre choice that could have only been made in the 80s. This lovely, mature woman spends the whole film harassing this low-paid worker.
A little tight at the top.
Blossom over here has a doctor fetish she is trying to fulfill. The main character, Anne, has a son who, as far as I can tell, really wants to bang his mom. I mean, look at this.
Mom, why don't you just, stand up?
The opening shot has a couple who found sex a bit too difficult in many of the classic ways decide underwater fornication to be the most reliable and stress-free way. We are then treated to a solid opening kill mixed with the sleazy sex I expect from a killer piranha film. You can break this movie into two distinct parts: a sex romp with the tone of Porky's and a slasher film with fish. Now the kills are pretty much the same, but they're over the top enough to make you happy. And yes, you can see the wires when flying, and are clearly on a pole when being forced on someone's neck, but the bloodshed makes up for the lack of quality piranha effects. The big beach attack has some great gore, and you're really rooting for the plastic fish at this point. The people mostly suck, but the big swarm is great. The piranhas themselves have a secret lair and a sunken ship, which becomes the endgame for Anne and Tyler. Gabby, the dynamite fisherman from earlier, set a timed bomb in the sunken ship with the hopes of killing every one of those piranhas. And I just assume all of them like to sleep together, kind of like a glider. Oh, look at you guys, look at you. It would just take one bomb. It would just take one bomb. The underwater scenes are the best looking of the bunch, and are surprisingly impressive for a film with no budget. And you can tell what little money they had went here. I would even argue that Jaws the Revenge, bless your soul, was influenced by this chase scene. Any way you cut it, this is B-movie gold. In most of my reviews, I like to discuss the flaws, but with Piranha 2, I don't see the need. Yes, the effects are spotty, the dialogue cheesy, and the plot's ridiculous. But that's sort of the point. You watch a film like this for the ridiculous idea and execution. We get a lot of gratuitous nudity. Nudity for the sake of it isn't something I can argue against. Heart to heart, it's great.
They're great!
Okay, at times this does walk the line between campy and awfully good, but it never goes full measure in its failures. And listen, I'm a fair man. I am fully aware that if this dove 100% in the waters of awfully good, Mr. Jesse Shade would need to take over like the FBI did in Die Hard, as stated in the Joe Blow Bill of Rights.
I'm in charge here.
Not anymore.
Take Lance Henriksen, whose character Steve is realized and motivated, but he also just discards the helicopter he's flying to get to his son. This police force has to be small, and I can't see them having more than 1-2 helicopters max. I guess no need. It just explodes. It's great. It's just a great time. I think the first, and its sequel as equals, Lance Henriksen stole the show as the police chief, while the first had my favorite old guy New Yorker, Dick Miller. And since he recently passed into the great beyond, this one's for you.
We go to.
Shut the fuck up, kid. We're trying to do some action.
That's right, kind sir. Shut the fuck up. Maybe you can enjoy schlock. Maybe you can't. But to deny a film whose intentions are clear would be a travesty. How far are we from embracing these films once again in theaters? Farther than you think. Alexander Aja made one of the best remakes I have ever seen, but his intention to entertain with the gore and nudity wouldn't fly as well today. And so Piranha 2: The Spawning, or Flying Killers, is a marker in time. A film that launched one of the world's best and most innovative directors, and in cult fashion, found a voice thanks to Shout Factory. Like James Cameron once said, it's the finest flying piranha movie ever made. And though oddly specific in its claim, he is right.